VCS01, Learning Outcome 2 and Learning Outcome 3. Within today's lesson, we will cover the following pieces of criteria. Learning Outcome 2, 2A, state workplace codes of practice and procedures relevant to the health and welfare of animals. 2B, explain how these policies protect the health and welfare of animals in veterinary practice. Learning Outcome 3, 3A, state the key features of the Health and Safety at Work Act 1974. 3B, explain practice policies and procedures in place to maintain health and safety. 3C, explain basic principles of manual handling. 3D, explain how cleanliness in the veterinary environment impacts on safety. 3E, identify injuries reportable under RIDDOR and how reporting is carried out. 3F, identify the key features of current COSH regulations. Learning Outcome 2, 2A, state workplace codes of practice and procedures relevant to the health and welfare of animals. And 2B, explain how these policies protect the health and welfare of animals in veterinary practice. This is a task that I would like for you to work through with your mentor in the workplace. It is a really vital part of your initial induction with the practice that you understand codes of practice and procedures, or SOPs as they may be called, that you're made aware of them, that the documents are made available to you, and that it is clear how they are relevant to health and welfare of animals, and that you have the opportunity to talk through them with your mentor in order to show your awareness and understanding. Further aims and objectives of today's session. You must understand how to comply with health and safety, ensuring safety of yourself and others in relation to the following: responsibilities, and have an understanding of responsibilities in relation to yourself and those of your employers. Relevant legislation, including the Health and Safety at Work Act 1974, RIDDOR 2013, and you must be able to identify situations and the requirements of RIDDOR. COSH 2002, Ionising Radiation Regulations 2017, and the Manual Handling Regulations 1992. You must be able to identify when an accident report should be completed and sent to the Health and Safety Executive, and you must also understand the role of the Health and Safety Executive. Responsibilities in maintaining health and safety. As employees, we all have a part to play in ensuring the workplace is a safe environment. This is not only for ourselves, also for our fellow team members, our patients, and also owners and the general public. We must understand that others are affected by what we do or don't do. i.e., if we mop the floor in a public area but do not put out a wet floor sign, we could, without realising, actually cause an accident to occur because we haven't made sure that people are aware that the floor is wet at that point in time. We must ensure that we fully comply with the policies and procedures of the practice. We must cooperate with others, and we must also ensure that we do not mistreat items that affect our safety or welfare, so ensuring that we follow SOPs or procedures for appropriate care, cleaning, maintenance, and that if we damage an item, that we report it to the appropriate person. We must ensure that we follow health and safety training and also use the equipment that the employer has provided. Your health and safety training will form part of your induction with your practice. It may have been performed a while ago if you've been working for the practice for a long time, but you must ensure that you continue to act accordingly, and if necessary, update yourself. Make sure that you're aware of risk assessments, standard operating procedures, and appropriate use and maintenance of equipment. Your employer, over time, where appropriate, will update you on health and safety, and that might be that's internal training, it might be training on the computer, but it is vital that you are up to date at all times and that then you actually enforce that training in the workplace. You must also use the equipment that the employer has provided safely, but also make sure that you use it. So, for example, personal protective equipment must be used as it's provided for your safety. It is not appropriate, for example, to make up disinfectants without wearing, for example, gloves, aprons, goggles to protect yourself from any spillages or damage to your skin or eyes from occurring. All of this is encompassed by the Health and Safety at Work Act. What are your rights as an employee? As an employee working in veterinary practice, you should be provided with a safe working environment. And overall, this means that all risks should be controlled. Because of the nature of veterinary environment, there are risks that we encompass and encounter day to day. We're working with chemicals such as disinfectants, medications, and also animals who, as we very well know, are unpredictable and can be unsafe. So we need to bear in mind that our employer needs to be aware of those facts and that they take all reasonable measures to make sure that those risks are controlled so that we are kept as safe as possible. So that means that our working conditions must be safe and systems in place to control and ensure such conditions are maintained. We must, as a member of staff, be updated and consulted on health and safety issues. And we must be able to inform our employer of any concerns or issues we may have regarding health and safety. As an employee, you are entitled to breaks, and you are entitled to at least 20 minutes if you work 6 hours or more at one time. You must have access to first aid facilities and trained personnel. You must have adequate toilet, washing facilities and access to drinking water. Cleanliness is of utmost importance also, and that doesn't only affect ourselves, but it also affects the care that our patients receive. You may consider, if you are an apprentice, if the above applies to you as well. And the answer is yes, of course it does. As an apprentice, you are an employee, you have a contract of employment, and you have the same needs and requirements as other members of the veterinary team. I have provided there a link for you to look into this further if you wish to do so. What must employers do? Employers must train you appropriately and discuss with you how to do your job safely. You should also be given an overview of your job role and your responsibilities in order to ensure that you abide by those requirements. Such information and training will be provided to you during your initial induction procedures when you first start employment with your practice. Your employer must inform you of risks. As we've already said, the industry itself poses various risks to us as veterinary staff members. We deal with unpredictable animals, chemicals, medications, anaesthetic gases, radiation. So we need to be made aware of these, but also we do need to be informed of how those risks are controlled. It's all well and good being told there are risks posed to us, but how can we overcome them and make sure that we are kept safe, our colleagues, and also the animals in our care as well. Within your veterinary practice, you will have a health and safety representative, and this person should be made known to you, and also their details should be provided on the workplace health and safety poster. Your employer must protect all of those within the workplace from harm by consulting with the HSE and also yourselves as employees. They must also inform you of emergency and first aid procedures in order that at that point in time you'll be able to contact the appropriate person and also act accordingly. For example, being able to find the first aid kit easily and quickly and be able to report that accident and record it in the accident book. What else must your employer provide for you? As we've already said, they must provide you training for your role in the veterinary environment. They must provide you with personal protective equipment, such as gloves, aprons, goggles, face masks, in order to protect you from hazardous items. They must also provide you with the following information: the health and safety law poster, the health and safety policy statement, and they also must display an up-to-date employer's liability insurance certificate. How will this aid my job role? The aspects within the previous slide are vital to ensure that you perform your job safely. We've already said that the employer needs to provide you with PPE. PPE is also required for different parts of our day-to-day work. PPE must be provided for radiography. It is also provided for chemotherapy treatments and other instances as well. It is vital, however, that depending on the type of PPE, that not only do we use it, but also that we maintain it, and you should be provided with information on how to do so. If your company has 5 or more employees, they must have a health and safety policy and must have records of risk assessments in place. As we've already said, risk assessments may be recorded on a computer, they may be paper-based, and they should be audited regularly, usually on a yearly basis, and also when a situation may occur, such as an accident or an incident where a risk assessment may need to be reviewed in order to update it if necessary. Health checks if there is a danger of ill health because of your work. So, for example, regular health checks if you work nights and a check before you start. The health and safety post that we've already mentioned must be in a prominent place, and it must detail who is their workplace health and safety representative so that you are made aware of that. You can also be provided with the equivalent pocket card. We're now going to move on to legislation, and the first piece of legislation that we're going to look at is the Health and Safety at Work Act 1974. This is the primary piece of legislation that encompasses occupational health and safety in Great Britain, and it covers many aspects such as general duties, the Health and Safety Executive or HSE, and enforcement. The Health and Safety at Work Act continued. The Health and Safety Executive enforces this Act along with others and with the assistance of local authorities. It is an Act that sets out to make further provision for securing the health, safety and welfare of persons at work, for protecting others against risk to health and safety in relation to activities that take place in that place of work, controlling the keeping and use and preventing the unlawful acquisition, possession and use of dangerous substances, controlling certain emissions into the atmosphere, to make further provision with respect to the Employment Medical Advisory Service, to amend the law relating to building regulations and for connected purposes. Management of Health and Safety at Work regulations amended in 1999 build upon the Health and Safety at Work Act and ensure duties to assess risks and arrangement are effective, and it requires planning, organisation, monitoring of controls and review, and those are all vital and important parts of risk assessments. If you'd like to look into this further, I have provided you with a HSE link so that you can look into the role of the HSE further. The role of the Health and Safety Executive. Key facts for you to be aware of. Their key focus is to prevent work-related death, injury and illness. They help employers understand how the laws to keep people safe affect them and their role. Frontline staff include inspectors who will visit places of work. They carry out research and lots of high-tech science to aid development due to industries being ever-changing. and workplace health and safety policies are based on the statistics that they produce. So what is the HSE? It is an independent prosecuting authority. They have highly trained inspectors, skilled scientists and other specialist staff. They regulate many areas such as construction, agriculture, general manufacturing, engineering, food and drink, quarries and domestic gas safety, to name but a few. And they are the authority that indicate to us that we must record accidents in the accident book and report to HSE where appropriate. Identify when an accident report should be completed and sent to the HSE. First of all, an employer must check if the HSE are the correct enforcement authority that needs to be informed. An employer can inform HSE of any workplace health and safety concerns that they have, as can employees. And any accident should be reported under the regulations of RIDDOR. The accident book. Due to the nature of veterinary industry, accidents will be a regular occurrence. To name a few, scratches, bites, needle stick injuries are commonplace. It is, however, really important that all accidents, no matter how minor they may seem at the time, are recorded in the practice's accident book. I've provided a link here to give you an example of one. And what I would like you to do is complete the following task. I would like you to discuss with your mentor the accident book, where it is kept, who should complete it, when it should be completed, and also any data protection related aspects. RIDDOR. Using the link that I have provided, I would like you to look into and list or identify the situations that are within RIDDOR requirements. I would then like for you to use the following link to see who should report such situations. Please produce this as a document and upload it onto OneFile for your assessor to check. COSH 2002. What does COSH stand for? Control of Substances Hazardous to Health. Examples of hazardous items that we encounter daily in veterinary practice are pharmaceuticals, harmful waste products, chemicals, disinfectants, radiation, anaesthetic gases, just to name a few. COSH regulations ensure that employers control risks of these substances, and it requires that they form COSH assessments. So these are again risk assessments to enable us to be aware of the risks that such things pose, so that we can then safely act accordingly. Again, I would like you to use the link below to make your own more detailed notes about the regulation, and again produce those as a document and upload it onto OneFile to be checked. Task. I would like for you to select a commonly used disinfectant used in your practice. Then, with the assistance of your mentor and using company paperwork to do so, have a go at completing a COSH risk assessment. You will also need to ensure that you are provided with or find a copy of the relating data sheet for the disinfectant you are covering. Once this is completed, again, I would like for both the data sheet and the COSH risk assessment that you have produced to be uploaded onto OneFile for it to be checked and marked. The Ionising Radiation Regulations 2017. Please note, if you use older textbooks to support your studies, that this will probably be detailed as 1999, however they were updated in 2017. Both legislations or regulations relate to the use of radiography. This is something that we use daily in practice. The purpose of the regulation itself is to ensure that radiography is carried out in a safe manner. It ensures that control measures are put into place and that local rules are abided by. The ionising radiation regulations encompasses all use of radiography and radioactive materials. The BVA guidance notes that were produced in 2002 that supported the 1999 regulations covered premises, equipment, personnel and procedures in order to minimise radiation doses received by veterinary staff. X-rays should only be taken if clinically justified, so there must be a clinical justification for doing so. This will ensure that exposure to animals is kept to a minimum, but also to the staff. We use the terms time, distance and shielding in order to reduce the need for repeated exposures. We must stand well back when they're being taken, and protective clothing or lead screen door should be used, and no dose limit should be exceeded. Local rules that are drawn up by the Radiation Protection Advisor in relation to the practice equipment, procedures and restriction of access for the controlled area. As part of this, there are written arrangements, and this includes a sequence of actions such as restraints of animals that can be used, precautions to be aware of, and there should be a copy of this given to all staff involved and a copy provided on the X-ray room location. The RPA is an externally appointed advisor. They will have a certificate of competence and will advise practices of protection methods, the controlled area layout, demarcation of the controlled area, and also advise on the local rules production. The RPS or Radiation Protection Supervisor is a person appointed within the practice. This generally tends to be a practice principal or a senior partner, and they are responsible for ensuring that radiography is performed safely and that local rules are followed. The controlled area is an area around the primary beam within which the average harmful dose rate is exceeded. So this would mean that it would be harmful to us as personnel. In a room where small animal X-ray takes place, it should have thick lead-lined walls, and if so, we can remain in the room, but only if that is out of the 2-metre area. If not, we must leave the room. We can utilise protective lead screens, etc., but it must be clearly demarcated where that 2 metres from the primary beam is, because as personnel we must be stood outside of that area when exposures are taking place. We must also have a warning light available to be able to inform others that may be passing the area that radiography is taking place. The Manual Handling Regulations 1992. In veterinary practice, we are manually handling items on a daily basis, such as bulky food bags, trolleys, materials, equipment, and also our patients. We must do so in a safe manner, and we must take appropriate cautions and use aids where applicable in order to protect ourselves from injury, others from injury, and also our patients. Our employer must ensure that the risk created through manual handling mean that risk of injury is as unlikely as it possibly can be. The following should be considered. We should avoid handling wherever possible. We should assess handling that cannot be avoided, and we should reduce the risk of injury as much as possible. And aids, education, training and knowledge of how to appropriately manual handle are all very useful in relation to achieving these criteria. Using your textbooks and also the link provided, I would like you to complete the following task. I would like for you to produce an informative protocol that could be used in your practice related to appropriate manual handling. Please produce this as a document and upload it onto OneFile for marking. In summary, during the session we have completed Learning Outcome 2 and Learning Outcome 3 with a variety of tasks, discussions and education with your mentor, and also the provided links and slides. Please, where appropriate, in relation to a task, ensure that you upload the work that you produce for your assessor to check and mark.